Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to another episode of the Awakened Creators Podcast, a podcast for high vibe creatives, bringing you spiritually grounded guidance to reawaken your creativity, helping you to release blocks, restore flow, and reclaim your joy. This is episode 5, and folks, we've got a fantastic show for you today. I am so excited because not only are we talking about reclaiming your creativity, empowering yourself, all that good stuff, but we are having our very first podcast interview with a very dear friend of mine and an absolutely incredible artist. And she and I are talking about art blocks. We're talking about really finding your creative voice and embracing your multidimensionality as an artist so you can really take ownership over your identity as a creative and really reclaim that part of yourself. And so without further ado, join me in welcoming Awakened Creators' very first interview guest. She is an illustrative artist based in Central California, Tracy Polkownikow. Tracy, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Welcome. Tracy, I'm really excited that you agreed to be on the show today because as my first interview guest, I really thought that you would be a perfect fit because your work is so deep and so rich in really connecting to that creative wildness inside of you. So, for those who are listening who are not familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about your work? How would you describe what it is you do?
Well, it's varied. I'll use that word to start off with. I've never picked a set medium or style to really stick with. I do have overarching themes in my work. I do kind of stick to illustrative elements and 2D design for the most part. But other than that, there's certain thematic elements that go through it. I love working with mythologies. I love working with subconscious expressions and just this abstract um, blah onto the paper or canvas or whatever it is I'm doing. um, but really, I guess to describe it is a I'm striving to communicate visually with what's going on in my mind. You know, what I want to say to people. Growing up, I was never really verbal. I wasn't really good with words. That wasn't my chosen form of communication as a child, I guess. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've been drawing since day one, as far as I can think of, and um, it got me through school. It got me through so many different things, and just learning how to take what's in my mind, put it on paper for others to see. So in my mind, it's communication is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned, not being able really to necessarily express all that stuff inside of you, especially when you're a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a teenager, an angsty
Oh God,
teenager.
yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, I'm really glad that you brought that up because that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you was like, what was one of your earliest memories that you have of being creative? Um, when did you really know that this was something really powerful that you had as a tool in your toolkit?
Ooh. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I didn't go to preschool. My parents put me directly into like a kindergarten, first grade. For those in the US, they'll understand what I'm saying, kind of split class in the early 90s. And I was really intimidated, and the teachers weren't sure if I was going to make it or not. But at the time, I was making these craft paper cutout scenes with little shapes of cars and grass, and there was always animal people in the cars. They were driving or they were talking and interacting, and my parents brought those pieces in to show the teachers because they were curious. They wanted to see what work. This is my assumption, I don't really know, I was too young to really comprehend what was happening, but they wanted to see, what I could do. And then because they saw that my work was very very structured and very, communicative, it was telling a story. It wasn't just an abstract
Mm-hmm.
paint fingerprints, the usual toddler kind of artwork that you see,
Right.
they kept me in the advanced class, and they were just like, no, she's good. She's good. She doesn't talk a whole lot, but she's good. So she's got this.
Oh.
So that was kind of the first, like, oh, this can get me somewhere. I have the ability to show people things and have them understand what I'm trying to do here. And sometimes they see even more than what I was intending. So that's probably my earliest memory of that power, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's pretty impressive to really have that expression come out so early. I'm curious because as we've been dialoguing on Awakened Creators about reclaiming your creativity, and
Mhm.
in my personal experience, it's not been something that I've been able to hold on to consistently. There has been times where it's really slipped away from me
Mhm.
and I've fallen down a dark hole, not realizing that that was the piece that I let go of. So I'm curious, as someone who, really had that emerge as a strength so early on, was it something that you consistently held on to throughout your years? Were there any moments when, your creativity, like you just couldn't
Mhm.
grasp it that way anymore?
Yeah. Um, so I identified as the artist through school. It's what kind of, I was socially awkward. Like I said, I didn't talk much, but everyone knew me as the artist. I was in a very small school growing up. I think graduating class of 20 to 30 kids. Extremely small country
Mm-hmm.
school. And even through high school, like I was always, they had to make up classes specifically for me because they didn't have enough art classes for me to take.
Oh, wow.
I got awards from the town. I was involved, like I was the artist growing up. But when adulthood hit, it hit really, really hard for me. And I got to a place where, bad relationships, bad job prospects, bad no really solid financial gain, no housing, and it was a really chaotic time. And I remember the last true expressive piece that I did in my sketchbook. I would carry a sketchbook with me constantly at the time. I'm still trying to reclaim that, but and it was just this broken person laying on this bed of furs, and she was, the lines were so chaotic, and it was just this, it's sitting in one of my closets right now. One of these days I'll have to pull it out, but it's that was probably the absolute last piece before I just literally I couldn't draw. I couldn't pick up a pencil anymore. It was just like, I'm done. I'm not the artist anymore. I have other things I need to figure out. I have to figure out what adult life is. So broken, gone completely.
Wow.
It was still, the ability was still there. Like, I'm not fully a subconscious expressor. Like, I spent years training as far as like in design and stuff like that, like how to create images, not just by subconscious expression, but through the
Mm-hmm.
laws of design also. So it's like I could still, if somebody asked me to draw a giraffe, I'd draw a giraffe, but that wasn't my form of communication anymore at that time.
Mm-hmm.
What had been a natural expressive form for me was suddenly not. I was left really just kind of broken and kind of researching for myself, like even down to, and it's embarrassing to think now, but where I got to, I was questioning, like, well, what even is it to be human? Like, I don't really have a way to connect with people anymore. There's no,
Mm.
like, just absolute bottom pits of depression in adulthood. And that lasted for years. And I would, early on, like, I knew I had to get back into it. Like, I knew I had to get back into it, but it got to a point that it was okay that I wasn't doing art anymore. And when I met my husband, I had gotten to the point that I didn't even introduce myself as an artist. I didn't introduce myself as, like, he didn't find out that I drew things until it was a while into our relationship. I want to say,
Wow.
like, at least a few weeks or so, but coming from you know, that was my entire sense of identity, to like, I didn't even want to let people know that I did art. Um, and then just having him and then having others, yourself included, just kind of like, but look at what you can do. Like, look at this. Like, this is good. And then just slowly gaining back this tribe of support and just love and just all this light stuff that where I was before I didn't have either. But it was just like, oh God, well, maybe I should try to lean into this again and see what comes out. And
Mm-hmm.
funny enough, it was at a music festival. Oh God, what was it? Oh, I don't remember the name of it, but we went, and I'm not the biggest fan of music festivals. Like, they're fun, they're awesome. I love music, and it was really cool. There was a lot of cool like workshops on community building and stuff, which fascinates me. I prefer workshops, but you know, the whole party scene has never been my thing either. So didn't do a whole lot of that. But after we got back the um from the festival, I had purchased a canvas out of, I don't know if it was out of habit or if it was one of those like wishful thinkings. Maybe I'll get to this.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get to this. But when we got back, I was sat there and I stared at it for a while and I was like, I'm gonna do something. And I created this piece that I've never created anything like it before, and that is the Coyote brings the sun to the people piece. It's that acrylic painting, and it was so color, everything was just
Wow.
color infused and light infused and completely opposite of anything I'd ever created up to that point. Um, and it scared me after I finished it, because I was like, is this my new direction? Is this what I look like now? Like, this is so opposite from my usual doom and gloom ink drawings. Like, what is this? What is this? And so I sat with that for a while, and I just let it do its thing and kind of become more comfortable with this new voice. And it was like, okay,
Wow.
I can be cool with this. I can be cool with identifying with this visual voice. Um, and then through that, I started kind of exploring more into my older favorite mediums, like with inks, and not so much graphite's never been a favorite of mine. It's too easy to erase with graphite. I don't like erasing my mistakes. I like living with them. Give me my ink. Um, but with sculpting and a few other, just playing around with things. And now I've gotten to a point that it's like, oh, I've been selling my artwork. I've been going to different art fairs. I'm starting to re-identify with it, and I feel like I'm at an even more healthy place, as opposed to using it as my identity because I felt like I had nothing else. Now it's like,
Mm.
oh, this is a way to show people all the richness that I actually am. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the adjustment that I've seen over time.
That's great. Yeah, as you were talking about that canvas and
Hmm.
that painting that just kind of exploded out of you,
Hmm.
it immediately brought to mind like a sacral chakra awakening,
Mm-hmm.
especially if I'm thinking of the right piece.
Oh, you are.
I mean, it's the colors are
Hmm.
very indicative of that fiery reds and oranges and yellows just
Yeah.
flowing freely.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it was this whole exploration of, well, it was the workshops, it was the whole scene of the music, just being around all of these creatives and seeing them all come together for this festival, and so much art, and I came back and I was like, well, I can do that too. But I have
Mhm.
something to actually say. And so it was this piece based on this beautiful native myth. It's one of my favorite myths. It's Coyote, who's his trickster figure. He's a trickster creator, and he, in one of the stories, he takes sunlight from, oh, it's been so long since I've read it, I'll have to read it again one of these days, but he takes sunlight and he gives it to the people. And in my mind,
Mm.
it's like, cool, I was given this knowledge and I have to give it to the people, and so how am I going to visually express this? And so that's, yeah. That's how it happened.
Are you still creating pieces like that? Like, how has your work evolved
Every
since that
once in a
moment?
while, it's gotten a lot more complex. I feel like I've really, especially recently I've been wanting to do work for other people. And so I've kind of opened up commission pieces, and I've been, because in the past commissions have never really worked well for me. I didn't enjoy working with clients who were too picky, who were weren't specific enough, or were too detailed, and just it was never a good situation for me when making art for other people. But I wanted to try it again and really open myself up, because I feel that, through maturing and through going through what I've gone through, it's like I have this ability to really empathize with people on a deeper level now, and to try and take what they're experiencing and what they're feeling and put it into a visual. And so the most recent piece I just completed was a tattoo design for a really good friend of mine. And she was just kind of describing it to me. And I've always known that I've known her long enough, and we've gone through enough, that it's like I can kind of have this visual already half formed. But really, my newest approach is like, okay, well, just give me songs you like. Give me, you don't have to tell me exactly what you want. Give me animals you like. Give
Oh,
me
wow.
stories you like. Give me something. Give me a mood. Like, what's the mood? And then I go from that. And I've stopped doubting myself, and I've stopped like
Wow.
checking in with them every 5 minutes. Like, is this line in the right place? Do you like this line in the right place? It's like, no, just don't. They came to you because they want your work, and that's, just do it. Just do what you do best, and that's taking abstract concepts and ideas and emotions and sounds, and just combining all of that into a visual representation. And
Wow.
the most rewarding thing is, when I finish it, I'm sharing it on social media, and I'm seeing what happens, and then I get someone comment something, and what they say is exactly what I was going for. They, like,
Beautiful.
complete stranger, I've never talked to this person, no idea who they are, they're not even an artist, and they've got words that they have given me about this piece that I've shown that is exactly the words that I cannot come up with, but is what I put on paper visually. And
Wow.
so, yes, that's it. That's who I put on paper. So yeah, so that to me is rewarding. That to me is what it's like, okay, cool. That's what I'm doing correctly now. So I'm really trying to hammer home with the visual communication. It took me a lot of soul searching to recognize that that's what I do. I
Mhm.
communicate visually. And it's kind of vague, but it's very specific for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And it sounds like you're really developing your unique process and
Hmm.
what works for you,
Yes.
which is amazing.
Yes. And I struggled for a long time with, not sticking to a single medium, or not sticking to a single style of working, and just like, but I've really worked on being okay with being pretty damn good at different styles of art.
Yes.
And it's like, cool, like I'm okay with that. Like, I can sit with an idea and I can think, oh well, I can do it this way, or we can go a completely different mood, a completely different route. We can go way out of the box, and like I can throw some paint on a piece of wood over here and like glue stuff to it, and that'll work for you too.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. um
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like sometimes in my experience, creativity has, while very freeing and expressive, can tend to, the way people perceive it, I guess, tend to close you in. Like, well, are you a painter? Are
oh
you a
girl
sculptor? Are
oh girl,
you,
you're gonna get me
you know,
started. No.
yeah, like pick your medium and stay in your
Yes.
lane. And
Yes.
yeah, I can totally resonate with that and like not feeling like I fit into a box.
Mhm.
Yes, I write, but I love drawing too. And I love all these other modes of expression. And I don't feel like I should have to narrow
Exactly.
myself down to a specific box.
Exactly. And I feel like that narrowing is not only coming from, an artist themselves, but it's coming from the outside,
Oh, yeah.
especially where we like in Western society, like growing up, if especially to young artists who are listening, like growing up, if you were like me, you had parents that were not artists, that were not in the arts. They one of their main focuses was just making money. And so growing
Mm-hmm.
up, it's like, how the hell am I going to make money doing art? Oh my God, that has to happen. That is what I have to do. Otherwise I can't do art. And it's just this whole huge block.
Mm-hmm.
And by using that block and then trying to like, oh, well, maybe if I try and sell myself as the painter who only paints this one thing, who like different versions of this one thing, and I learn and I corner the market on this one thing, it's like you're no longer thinking like an artist.
Mm-hmm.
You've blocked that creativity off. Now you're a graphic designer at that point in time. Which
Essentially, yeah. And where does your voice go?
so that's yes, and there's nothing wrong with graphic design. I do that also. It's like it's a whole
Exactly.
different mode, but it is different, and that's a big thing. And I feel for especially younger artists who get caught in this trap, and I see it a lot. And they're like, it's like a lot, because I love reaching out to younger artists specifically. Like anywhere from 15 to 20 something. It's I see them, I see their work, and I recognize the struggles that they're going through. I can see it in their work. They're like, I don't have a style. I don't know how to draw this. I'm only going to draw this one thing, and then I'm going to market this one thing, and I want people to buy this one thing that I'm good at, and I'm not going to do anything else. And it's like, oh, you are limiting yourself so
Yes.
much.
And your growth.
And it's this fear of failure. It's this fear of not having that financial backing. It's this, but really, like, even if you have to get a job at, I don't know, some fast food restaurant or something, or something to keep a roof over your head, don't feel like you're not an artist. You're still an artist.
Amen.
Even in those, like, you're grueling 12, 13, 14, 16, whatever, how many hours a day you're working. Sometimes my best work comes out when I'm like hyper stressed and I'm just like, give me like 2 minutes to like scribble something down.
Right. It's like a
And like
drink
that.
of water.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, that is reassuring. It's like, oh, this is still my voice. It's still there. Like, do what you got to do, but I feel like I've wasted so much time disrespecting that visual voice of mine and not treating it for what it is and trying to make it something that it's not. And it's like, well, just let it be. Let it show up whenever it wants to, wherever it wants to, especially if you're still trying to come out of a huge quote unquote art block. Yeah, you just really have to be soft on yourself and be kind to yourself and just let it sit there and draw the same thing over and over again. If you have to, just let it come out. Be okay with yourself, be okay with whatever comes out. And when you share it with other people, share it with confidence. Like, don't limit yourself. Don't apologize for your work. Don't say, oh, I can't draw legs, so don't even look at that leg. Like, don't just say, this is my work, this is what I did. Let it speak for itself. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Done. Let it be.
Yeah, it's like when you're cooking, like don't mention that you think it's undersalted or that you
Yep.
forgot the parsley. 'Cause chances are the other people won't notice or,
And here's another way to look at that. You're almost, and this is the self-flagellation view of that, is you're stealing from your viewers if you do that. Your viewers see your piece and their mind is activated. It's thinking whatever the hell it's going to think, and you have zero control over that. And it's scary to think that way. But if you're trying to put ideas in their head about what they should be seeing, that's not good. That's not, you're stealing from them. You're stealing their experience of your work, be it negative or positive. Let them have their visual experience that you're giving them. That's why you're sharing your work in the first place. You want people to see it. You want people to think about it. So don't try and put thoughts in their mind about your work. That's been something I've really, really kind of emphasized. Even, I don't know, I think that's always kind of been that stubborn streak of me. Is just, well, I don't care if you like it or not. Here, except with commission work. But now
Yeah.
that I've claimed that voice again, it's like, this is it. This is what I do. Enjoy it or not.
That takes a lot of courage though. It takes a lot of releasing control
Mm-hmm.
over the other person's perception of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that goes into all forms of life too. It's just recognizing that you do not have control over other people. It's not only very respectful, I think, but it's also self-empowering. It's like, okay, well then I don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
I can put all this energy that I have worrying about that into, let's make more art. Let's make more whatever.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what reclaiming your creativity is all about. It's letting go of a little bit of control, letting yourself grow into whatever it is you're becoming, and not being afraid to go through those ups and downs and all arounds, and let yourself be free in that moment. You mentioned earlier something that can happen when you're just starting out is that you sort of like attach yourself to an identity as a particular kind of artist or a particular kind of creative. So I have a question for you that I think viewers would also be interested to know, that besides what you do kind of creatively in the studio with your pens and pencils and paints, what is something else that you're passionate, like just as passionate about, that's not, directly related to your artwork?
That has to be my mental health and my relationship with my chosen family, namely my husband, my biological sister, and you're in this circle of
Yay.
other select friends that I've just,
I paid her to say that, by the way.
yes, rolling in that dough. No, but I feel like I've really gone through trials of just figuring out who I actually want in my life. And because I've done so much work on that and I've put so much care in cultivating these relationships and really trying to rediscover myself and heal from broken pasts and learning what it means to be truly fine with myself mentally and all of its quirks and eccentricities and just all of these things, and just being okay with that and working on things that aren't healthy for myself or healthy for my partner or healthy for, yeah, just working on things. Like I've gotten to the point that it's like I'm actually going back to school specifically for this, for mental health.
Nice.
So yeah, so that is another thing of fascination of mine, is just learning how the mind works, how humans interact, their different little, how they communicate with each other, how they learn to behave to each other, and how to heal from different things, and how to grow from traumatic experiences, and how to do that in a way that's helpful and positive for society. That's really that like I'm like, oh, I got the shivers on that one. Yes.
I think that means you're on the right track.
Exactly. Exactly. Just trying to find a way to help others when they've been in similar journeys that I have, and how to bring that strength and that courage that I've dug up out of the absolute muck of existence, so that they can have that too.
Yes.
Giving back, teaching, instruct, like helping, just being there for others is really, really, really important to me.
That's so beautiful. And I think that's really one of the key tenets in the mission of what Awaken Creators is trying to do, is to reignite and reawaken a creative spark within individuals like yourself and others, not just so that they can heal, although that's primary first and foremost, because I think your creativity is really a gift for you to grow and heal yourself and become this beautiful being, but also to turn around and, pay it forward and use that darkness that you've gone through to help lead others and guide them.
Yes, exactly. And to be okay with that darkness, because that's a struggle too. If any listeners do check out my art, they might be surprised to see that it will bounce back and forth between exceptionally dark subject matter to light, fluffy, and sometimes just absolutely zany. But
I love it.
It's this radical acceptance of just, I'm feeling really dark today. I'm going to draw a demon. I'm going to be okay with this demon. He's going to be my best buddy today. We're going to work on something that's going to look absolutely fantastic by the time I'm done with it. And then put it out in the world, see what he says to people. And I've met so many people by doing that, by just letting that darkness kind of go out into the world in a positive way, because it's so easy when you've been traumatized and when you have that inner, oh god, not to sound like a cartoon character, but that inner little evil streak. Like, it's so easy to lash out with violence or like to attack people who are close to you, and it's like, well, no, there's so many other creative and more interesting ways to deal with that. And I guess I got lucky and found out early on that drawing was a very powerful way to get that out. And I've connected with a lot of people who they see my darker pieces and they're like, this is my soul. Like, I've had people message me and they're like, this piece speaks so much to me. And I'm like, it's, it could just literally just be a picture of a dog screaming in pain and agony. And like, to them, it's like, this is they're seeing what I was feeling, and they're feeling it also. It's this connection, this soul connection, that's like, they see that work and they see what I was trying to say. Because that's what they need to give voice to also.
And because you were honest.
Yes,
exactly. It because you were honest with yourself and you put it on the page.
Exactly. I put it out there, and people, it's very powerful for me to see that connection, to see that, yes, they get it. They don't see just, I don't know, a growling wolf dog or something. They see what's underneath that subject matter, and they really connect with it, and it resonates with them because they want that voice also. They want that empowerment. They want that ability to put that out in the world and say, hey, this is a reality. This pain, this anger, this sadness is a reality. It's not all pastel paintings of flowers. No offense to those who do those, but
there's space for the pastel flowers, we need a little joy.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying, like,
and your colorful pumpkins. Tracy's got some super cute pumpkins, by the way.
Oh, those pumpkins. Yeah, there is a place that I feel, at least in my personal life, a lot of people tend to shy away from dark subject matter, and it's important to find a healthy way to embrace it and give it voice, because otherwise it just festers and turns into something more negative and can possibly not only yourself but others. And so
absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's so beautifully stated, and something that I really want to double down on and express openly through Awakened Creators is that full acceptance of all those aspects of yourself. When we're talking about being high vibe and, kind of ascending our consciousness to new levels, I think a common mistake that people start off with is that they think there's some perfection that they're supposed to reach, or some line that they're going to cross eventually where they'll no longer be human and have to deal with human ickiness and feelings that are uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
You know, in my experience, it's been, you know, the opposite of that, and that it's been a process of going into the ickiness. Like
Yes.
that's how you move through and higher up, is by being able to really look at those parts of yourself and love them.
Mhm.
Learn how to love them and have compassion for them.
Yes, I really want to emphasize that compassion point, because I feel like it's really easy to say love and accept those dark things, and then really easy to interpret it as, oh, well, I don't have to fix them.
Mm,
That's never necessarily true. You know, reaching into that darkness and becoming comfortable with it is completely different than ignoring it and saying it's fine because that's just who I am.
right.
Um, recognizing it and finding ways of channeling it that are helpful and that are useful and that are positive. Like that is the challenge, that really difficult challenge that darkness really brings to people. And that is the true radical acceptance of it, is figuring out a way to express it and to accept it and to love it, that is positive
Mm.
and
Yes.
non-harmful.
Yes.
That's the true
Let
work.
your canvas, let your paper, let your Word document, if you're on a laptop writing, let that be your safe space
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for you to just let it out, not
Mm-hmm.
judge and, you know, feel like it's a dirty part of you, but let it breathe. Let it get
Mm-hmm.
some air, you know? Don't let that wound fester.
Nope. Exactly.
Well, you talked about um, going back to school, and you mentioned, you know, opening yourself up to more commission work. Can you tell us a little bit more about like what some projects you're working on or that you have planned for the future? Like what can we look forward to
Oh,
coming
God.
from Tracy?
um, well, really, what I've been wanting to do, aside from commission work, is dive back into my studies. I've missed really studying my favorite artists and kind of working from their work, and not just copying, but really just trying to understand their minds, you know, what they express. So um my husband gave me this absolutely insanely awesome birthday slash Christmas present. Hello, Capricorns. um
They feel your pain. You get one, okay?
yeah, exactly. No, I got there was separation. Anyways, was a book and a print from my absolute, like, all-time favorite illustrator slash illustrator. I don't feel quite covers his work, but Frank Frazetta's work. He did the original Conan the Barbarian comics. He does kind of the 80s sci-fi fantasy, you know, the hot girls in
Nice.
bikinis with the laser guns. It's kind of his vibe. Um which might sound unusual, but just reading, I've always connected to his work. And you know, to I guess a non-artist eye, it's like, oh, it's just a chick with, you know, cute looking chick and some space aliens, or a dragon or something. But from an artist's eye, seeing it, I can see that there's more underneath that, under
Mm.
his work. And it's like there's years of study of anatomy of and then under that, even he still manages to express that soul. So he has the subject matter layer, which is kind of the base, you know, lowbrow, cool, whatever, fantasy art, generic comic book art look. But then underneath that, you can see the years of technical study, the design principles that go into it. And then underneath that is the voice that I can pick out of that work. And just seeing that, I'm like, I'm inspired. So I really want to go into a time of study. And that's kind of, I have this giant, I just purchased a big old paper pad that takes up my entire desk. And I've got all of my old anatomy books that are sitting next to me right now.
Oh,
And just
nice.
all of this just really go back into the nuts and bolts of visual communication. That's kind of what I want to do. Like, I feel like I've had fun kind of playing and creating these playful images based on my reclamation of visual communication, and then based on what I still remember remembered from in the past, but I really, really want to dive into, how, because it's a science in its own sense, how to create images that communicate things clearly to viewers, not just artist
Mhm.
viewers, but anyone can see an image and then pick up on it, pick up something from it. So that's really what I'm. So if you do follow me, or if you do like check it out, you should expect to see lots of sketches and lots of studies and lots of stuff just kind of really going back into the very basis of visual design and illustrative elements. I just bought a whole book on perspective drawing, which has always been a struggle for me. And so it's like, cool. I gotta work with math and some got my rulers and my protractor. I'll do some angles, and it's like I'm all for this. So that's really what I'm gonna dive into.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that just really goes to show that, you know, you need other artists and other creatives around you to inspire you and, to feed that power within you, um, which I think is beautiful. I mean, would you agree that that power of community is pretty incredible for artists and creatives?
It is, and it's very difficult. At least for me, it's been difficult. But it is when you find someone who has that same voice, who has a similar way of communicating. It's like, oh, you recognize, we're the same, you and me. We can communicate in ways that others can't communicate, and it's that connection, that power is very, very healing and reassuring. It's like, oh, I'm not alone in the
Mm-hmm.
universe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a divine mirror. I think when you find somebody who really inspires you, it's a good indication that there's something in what they do that you have a power within you to do also, because you recognize it. Your soul recognizes it
Mm-hmm.
on a very subconscious level.
Yes.
So I highly encourage you, listener, to check out Tracy Polkownikows' work. Tracy, if people
Mhm.
want to find out more about what you do and take a look at what you've created, where can they do that?
Well, you can check out my website. I was very smart to not put my entire last name in the address. You don't have to spell it every single time, but the website's www.tpolk, P-O-L-K, art, A-R-T.com. That's tpolkart.com. Also on Instagram, I believe my handle is at tpolkart. Try to keep things as simple and easy to find as possible.
Nice. Yes, yes. Polkownikow might be a little bit of a challenge. Maybe
Ye-
not for any closet linguists in the audience, but
yeah. So try to keep it simple. And so at tpolkart is my Instagram. I think those are the only two things that I have up and going at the moment. Usually I'll post if I'm going to an art fair or anything through both of
nice.
those. So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, as you mentioned, check out Tracy's work. She is, as you've heard, multidimensional. Her stuff goes deep, guys. Really take a look at it. And again, if you resonate with it, reach out, leave a comment, share. All of those ways of connecting with artists that we resonate with not only feeds our soul, but it supports the work that they do as well. Well, Tracy, any parting advice for our listeners about how we can reclaim our creativity before we go?
Just do it. And if you absolutely hate what you're doing, if you look at that image and it makes you feel like, or if you look at that sculpture and it makes you feel absolutely miserable when you're looking at it, do it again. Do another one. Just keep it, keep on. Just keep making stuff. I can almost guarantee you'll make something that you love, or that somebody you love loves eventually.
That's great. Yes, keep trying, keep going, keep creating. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Tracy, for joining me on our very first Awakened Creators interview. I love this. This was fun.
Ditto, Amanda.
Yay. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you want to learn more about what Awakened Creators is doing and join the Awakened Creators family so you can start learning some spiritually grounded tools for reawakening your creativity so you can release blocks, restore flow, and reclaim your joy, then head on over to Instagram at awaken.creators where you can check out our latest content. And if you're interested in some freebies and courses that we offer, you can also find us at weareawakenedcreators.com. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys. Keep creating. Namaste.